The more I think, the worse everything gets, and I've realised my mind is the worst place I can stay. So I've made it a goal of mine to think less about when I'm, planning to do things, and instead to act with speed, to take that action. I feel like, especially when thinking and delaying your actions, that you almost get caught in this trap where you end up not doing anything. So, at least for me, and I've sort of been doing this a bit now, it's when you keep taking action, that's when you make progress. So, for example, at least right now, with this YouTube channel that I started, once I'd had the idea, I started making these videos pretty quick because, I know at least for me in the past, when I've wanted to take on a new challenge, say learn an instrument. At one point, I wanted to learn how to play the piano. I'd think about it, and it would be on my mind, every day for a week, a month, and I wouldn't end up buying a piano or a keyboard. Wouldn't end up practicing, and at least with that example, it's just something that takes up space in your mind, something that you really don't need to focus on. When you don't need to focus on it because you have other goals, or it's something that in the end it's better if you just start learning it to make progress. But often, with this sense of overthinking that some of us do, we won't end up ever doing the thing, and eventually it'll go through our mind, but not after it's tormented us for a while. And yeah, I feel like that's something that makes taking action difficult, this chain of overthinking. For me, at least, I think I first started trying to change this in myself. It was about 2023, late 2023 into sort of mid 2024, which is where I'd spent some time abroad, and that was living in Japan, in Tokyo. And at that point, I just sort of, sat down and said to myself that I'm here to make experiences and to try new things. So if I end up overthinking about everything, then, I can't have that. I can't have myself just not making new memories here, because it's the kind of opportunity that I might not get again. So I decided at that point just to sort of say yes to different kinds of experiences and things that I wanted to do, to just do them rather than sitting and obsessing over them, which, it wasn't easy, but I would definitely say that in terms of doing new things, even if you fear them, it's better to do them and potentially be exhausted than to have that regret over not doing them and that curiosity over, how that thing would have been if you'd done it. I mean, for an example, there was one time when I was over in Japan, and I'd met this guy I'd only met once. It was a guy from Australia, and we'd sort of decided quite impromptu to go on a snowboarding trip. So we went to Nozawa Onsen, and for me this was something very foreign, because it's essentially going on holiday with a complete stranger, and I definitely felt a bit of a way about it. Maybe it wasn't the safest thing to do, but looking back at that, it was one of my fondest experiences there. And if I hadn't done that, I think I'd still be regretting that even to this day. And it's just going back to that snowboarding example. The place was called Nozawa Onsen, right? And it was a snowboarding town, skiing town, with many onsens spread out. And it was actually one of the first times where I'd went to an onsen, which, for those of you that don't know, an onsen is essentially a public bath where people aren't wearing clothes. So for me, it was very awkward, that being my first time experiencing something like that. But I feel like, if you're somewhere and you want to experience new things, immerse yourself in the culture in that example, it's something that does help build you up as a person. And, if I didn't end up doing that, and I feared, people's perception of, let's say, my body, then I think that would leak in even further to my daily life. And and just leak into me fearing what people, think of me in general. So I feel like it's through doing these things that make you uncomfortable. It's how you develop as a person. Whereas overthinking and not doing things that almost, it almost regresses you as a person. You don't get that advancement. You don't get these new experiences and knowledge. So with that, I'm very glad I ended up doing those things. And I do want to clarify here that I'm not just advising to take action on the first thoughts that pop into your mind. I'm not saying that you shouldn't think about things, but I'm saying that, you shouldn't get caught in this trap of overthinking that makes you not take any action. It's not literally staying busy all the time, but it's making sure you don't let that thinking replace action, replace experiences. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the idea of staying busy can be interpreted in different ways. But, I feel like for me, staying busy is keeping your mind occupied with things that you want to do. And the contrast of that and overthinking is that there seems to be a trap that I think a lot of people fall into. And it's where you think and you overthink about things that you want to do. And the trap is that, when you're thinking about these things, it almost feels like progress. There's a sense that thinking about something feels productive because you're working on it. You're thinking about that topic. You're thinking about the action that you're going to take, that you should take. But in reality, that trap usually ends up leading you in circles, leads you not taking action. So, it's a dangerous trap. And I think as an example, something that, might be helpful to some of you, I don't personally do this myself, but I have tried it in the past, but, as a rule, and you can use whatever rule works for you, but, if you think on doing something more than twice that you want to do, then act on it, then just do it. Or if you want to leave the decision up to fate a bit more, flip a coin. Heads, you do it. Tails, you don't. But you stick with that, and you tell yourself you're not going to keep thinking about it. And I feel like having this kind of mindset for me it's led to me having less stress about these things, less conscious thought, and being able to just take more action. And I think, at least for me, this channel is a good way that I'm proving that to myself. So this channel's almost like a visual representation for me of seeing that growth in myself. And I feel like for any viewers listening, if you want to do something, you want to start a channel or start a business or quit your job, find a new job, then I would say just go for it. And, within reason, don't sacrifice all of your stability, but I would say go for it. Go for it, keep going for it, stick with it, and just keep going, and you will see, the payoffs. At least in your mind, I believe you'll see this sense of clarity developing, and you'll feel almost more at peace in general life when you're not overthinking all of these things. Because at the end of the day, I would say that movement and progression, it does provide that sense of clarity that thinking never seems to do. If anything, thinking tends to make you feel more unsure, more uncertain, whereas movement, you get this sense of dopamine, this sense of progression, this sense that you're going somewhere. And, I feel like taking action and just reducing, obsessing and thinking about these things really helps towards striving towards whatever your general overall goals may be. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Just wanted to rant a bit. It's been a bit longer than I expected, but if any of you, learned something or you want to mention something, please feel free to leave a comment. And if you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button, notification bell, and subscribe.